Hey everybody, I'm Elyse Explosion, and I'm here with you today for a top 5 video of sorts. With the Barbie movie coming out this month, and me being generally very excited for this, I've kind of deemed July Barbie month. And I'm looking forward to a bunch of the stuff that I'm doing. I've got a couple more scripted videos that I've been working on, hopefully can get out, and this is going to be the first of them. And it's technically not about Barbie, but fashion dolls would not exist in this country if it were not for Barbie. So today I want to talk about 5 weird, forgotten, and unusual fashion dolls. Things along the lines of, oh, say, mystixx. Pinky Cooper. Pinky Cooper and the Jet Set Pets has been covered in great detail by other channels lately, but as a brief overview, Pinky Cooper was a line of 9-inch dolls created by original Bratz designer Carter Bryant and released by the Bridge Direct between 2013 and 2014. The dolls had removable and interchangeable hair, rooted eyelashes, articulated arms, and click legs. Pinky and her friends Pepper and Ginger, anthropomorphic dogs based on English toy spaniels, are jet setters. They love fashion and travel, and the releases reflect that. Sorta. Only a few waves of deluxe and basic dolls were released, with little interest for the line at the time from its target demographic. Collectors were more keen, but collectors alone don't drive sales. Pinky Cooper had a ton of promise, a well-known designer, a fairly solid marketing push between commercials and webisodes, but unfortunately seems to have been just a bit too out in left field for consumers back in the early 2010s. Being a 9-inch doll, the scale wasn't easy to match with other contemporary lines for redressing, and the gimmick wore off fairly quickly. Though the dolls have inset eyes, many that I have seen online have very off-center screenings and seem to have fairly poor quality control. In addition, the line suffered from issues with the concept. The goofy problem majorly comes into play here. Pinky and her friends are bipedal talking dogs with regular animal pet dogs. The dolls have seen a resurgence in recent years with appreciation from both the furry community and the 2018 NSFW fan comic Pinky and Pepper Forever, but the initial momentum was long gone by then. Boxy Girls. The Boxy Girls were a line of dolls released in 2018 by J at Play. An initial run of 4 dolls was released exclusively to Walmart stores, with the line expanding in both reach and volume over the next year or so. The Boxy Girls really like online shopping. As such, their gimmick was that each doll came with a series of packages for you to open and pull accessories from. Your doll too can have an unchecked Amazon addiction. For me, there were multiple problems with Boxy Girls and why I feel like that manifested in their limited success. For starters, the glaring elephant in the room. Why base a doll line around what is effectively the concept of getting Amazon boxes in the mail? Why are their heads so square? The dolls had some articulation, which was a point in their favor, but the clothing and accessories were flimsy, thin, and poorly designed. Several dolls were store exclusives and saw minor success in Europe, but to little fanfare. The line floundered until 2020 and saw the release of Boxy Girls Rainbows, which felt like a sad attempt to take on both Equestria Girls and Rainbow High, but fell flat. The line's social media has been static since November 2020. Fashion Diva Stars. The original Diva Stars were a line of 9-inch plastic electronic toys released by Mattel in October 2000. Intended to capitalize on the electronic pet craze of the early 2000s, the Diva Stars were interactive friends who engaged with their environment, other dolls, and accessories via the use of magnetic sensors. The dolls were considered a surprise hit, with sales vastly outperforming expectations. They weren't without their quirks. Diva Stars ran on button cell batteries, a type of battery not typically found in households, so when the batteries ran out, they fell silent. In addition, there was heavy criticism for the toys' stylized bodies, with some critics saying they promoted eating disorders or that the spoken lines were too stereotypical. In May 2001, MGA's Bratz were released, and suddenly the game was changed. In an attempt to regain some of their previous success, Mattel released a line of both 6-inch mini Diva Stars, not dissimilar from the original 9-inch figures, as well as the Fashion Diva Stars later that year. These dolls were closer to a traditional fashion doll, with fabric clothing, opposable body, and brushable hair. Dolls kept the unusual head proportions of the original Diva Stars dolls, which gave them an even more exaggerated look, even when compared to Bratz. Most notably, these dolls still included the interactive talking gimmick of the earlier releases. 3 waves of Fashion Diva Stars were released, the first being a fairly standard fashion line, though the inclusion of shoe stackers, additional soles you could add to their boots to increase the platform height, was definitely unique. The second wave was glow-in-the-dark themed, and the third was called Glitter 2 Glam, whose gimmick was that dolls would say different stock phrases depending on if their sunglasses were being worn up or down, meaning on their heads or on their faces. Fashion packs were also released alongside each Fashion Diva Stars line. Unfortunately for Mattel, they either just didn't catch on or couldn't compete with the already prolific Bratz. The Diva Stars line in general was discontinued in 2004 as a result of generally declining sales and inability to compete. mystixx. Oh, mystixx. mystixx were a line of dolls released for holiday 2012 at the height of the G1 Monster High craze. Everyone and their mother were looking to capitalize on the monster and fantasy doll trend, and Playhut was no exception. The 4 characters of mystixx, Talon, Siva, Azra, and Kalani, were secret vampires. The most distinguishing characteristic of the mystixx line were the Janus-like double faces. Dolls with multiple faces weren't a new concept. There's a tri-faced baby doll that has existed since the early 1900s, maybe even earlier, but this may be the first time it was attempted to be executed in a modern children's play line. On one side, the mystixx face was intended to be a typical high schooler, well, as typical as a Technicolor doll can be, I suppose, and the other was a more glammed up vampire face. Later releases would find the mystixx crew being zombies, Rococo zombies, and Grims, an animal-inspired line, all exclusive to Toys R Us in the United States. mystixx also came with separate wigs for each daytime and nighttime look, and fashion packs were allegedly available on Amazon. It is exceptionally easy to write off mystixx as just another Monster High clone, and frankly, you'd be right. The body sculpts were similar enough to Monster High that collectors at the time assumed they'd been directly copied. Most dolls in the line, with the exception of the Rococo zombies, lacked articulation, and the fashions didn't always match the illustrations. The clothing and accessories were flimsy and poorly detailed, and gimmicks such as the Rococo zombies' hair didn't always work well. mystixx hung around store shelves until 2015 when the line's social media went static. mystixx had a lot of promise. Some of the concepts were fairly unique, especially with the double face gimmick, but the lack of quality didn't catch on either with the target audience or collectors. Lammily. And then there's Lammily. I don't see a lot of talk these days, but upon its inception, the Lammily line was intended to be very explicitly the anti-Barbie. Creator Nikolai Lamb cited an online comment he saw about Barbie when discussing his inspiration for creating a new Playline doll. The unnamed user was quoted as saying, "To the male, to me, Barbie, she looks kind of alien-like." This sentiment resonated strongly with Lamb, who expanded on this with his own thoughts.
And that's what sparked it, I agree. If Barbie were a real woman, she'd be intimidating and cold. And what I like about real women is that they're warm and friendly.
Now, granted, Barbie is in fact not a real woman. She is a doll. But with the creator's own words in mind, I introduce you to Lammily. Lammily was created with, quote, the proportions of the average 19-year-old woman, end quote, based on CDC information in mind. The dolls were funded using a crowdfunding campaign, and Lammily, which stands for Lamb plus Family, of course, was released in 2014. 3 variants of Lammily were released: the white traveler doll, who ostensibly likes to travel, the black photographer doll, who is, you guessed it, a photographer, and the boy Lammily animal rescuer, who doesn't even come with a pet. Dolls cost $25 at release and came with a single outfit. Fashion packs were available for an additional cost, and a manual wheelchair was also offered. Additional accessories as well as sewing patterns were available. Lammily dolls never received a mainstream release, being exclusively available for purchase through the creator's website. There are a lot of things wrong with Lammily. One of the biggest concerns for me is that while, yes, technically the doll may have been created with average proportions in mind, how often does every average proportion manifest on an actual human body? For a toy created with being realistic as its main goal, it seems to fall flat. The criticism that Barbie was intimidating and cold feels oddly placed, as Lammily's sculpt reads as exactly that to me. One of the most appealing things about Barbie is that she has a name, a character, can do anything. Barbie's an astronaut, Barbie's a mermaid, Barbie's a babysitter, a fashion model, a photographer, culturally relevant. Barbie can be anything, and that is why Barbie is great. Mr. Lamb's quote at the beginning of this section to me reads that his interpretation of Barbie being intimidating and cold fundamentally misses the point of the character and the existing media property and instead projects onto it. Lammily is no one. Lammily isn't actually the name of a character or a doll, but a brand. Maybe she likes to travel or take pictures? Who is Lammily? I hate to be making a Twilight reference in 2023, but Lammily feels a lot like Bella Swan. A very generic character with no distinct personality. No makeup, long brown hair, average in every physical way. I'll leave you to connect the dots with that. So I think that's going to be it for me today, friends. Thank you so much for hanging out today, for liking, commenting, and subscribing. for watching this. If you have any other weird and forgotten doll lines that I missed, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much. Everybody take care, be well, and I'll see you in the next video. Later!